bringing a sense of emotion or yourself into the work is what creates things like culture and relationships and trust and things like that. And I don't think you can have like a successful like business without those key elements, because it is still people that are running the organization in many different ways.
Love is a strategy.
Hello and welcome to Love as a Strategy, a podcast that brings humanity to the workplace. I'm here to talk about life, business, change, but love. And we want to tackle topics that a lot of businesses and leaders shy away from. We believe that humanity and love should be at the center of every successful business. I'm your host, Jeff Ma, and as always, I'm here to have conversations and hear stories from real people about real work, real lives. And this season, I want to dive into a focus on change, stories around change, and how change impacts us in the real world here. And today, I'm joined by Pinaki Kathiari, CEO of Local Wisdom and co-founder of Resource Hero, with over 25 years of experience working with Fortune companies, global nonprofits, and startups. Pinaki has built a career at the intersection of digital communication, leadership, and human experience. He's an international speaker, a board member with IABC New York, and co-host of the podcast Why Does It Feel So Wrong to Be Human at Work, which is one of my favorite titles of all time. What drives him is simple but powerful: the belief that sustainable, profitable businesses are built on positive human experiences. And I'm so excited to dive into this blend of his expertise and our theme here at Love as a Strategy to create some real impact for the listeners. And I'm so excited to have you here. How are you doing today, Pinaki?
I am doing well, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I appreciate you, what you do, and as really love how love is intertwined with business and how you go about doing it. So really excited to be here, excited to dig in and have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. And just before we hit record, we were just talking about how this show itself is going through a change into the topic of change. Like, as of the recording yesterday was the launch of our new book, Love as a Change Strategy. And for years, this podcast has been Love as a Business Strategy. And I'm sitting here going, what do I do differently here in the podcast space? So here you are, really like the first guest I'm broaching this topic with. So we're going to experiment today. Like, today's going to be like uncharted territory, because
Love
I've had
that.
a formula. I've had a formula for years. And here we
Love
are. I'm
that.
saying, take that, throw it out the window. And there's a question I've asked every guest for 2 years, and it's, what is your passion? And I still want to ask that, but I also want to add where the change in, like, what is like the change you can think of in your life that has altered kind of your path the most?
Oh, very interesting. Good question. Thank you. And first of all, congrats on the book.
Thank you.
And it's a monumental effort and a lot goes into it. And super exciting to be in this moment of change for you and the podcast. And super excited to just do it serendipitously and dive right into change, because that's the one thing that's consistent in all of our lives, right? Like, the only one thing that I know that is consistent and for sure is inconsistency and change. Um, so yeah, change in my life. I've had quite a few of them. We all have those like moments in our lives where it's kind of like you hit this type of fork in the road, and because of a decision or something that happened, it just kind of drastically changes your life and things like that. And it's from big life moments to like little aha moments that just kind of change the direction. Um, I'd like to say, probably personally, the biggest change in my life was probably having a child at a young age. I was actually, it was right before my 22nd birthday, so I was technically 21 when I had my first daughter. Um, but here I am in a time where we just getting close to graduating college or graduated college. Fringes are out there. The tech bubble burst at that time, and I was graduating computer science,
Mm.
and I was having a baby, and so it kind of like put me in this like drastic change, because before that, and I think any parent would tell you, you know that, right? Like it's after you're having your first, there's something about the purpose that you have in life as a father or as a parent that essentially changes everything. So at the time when there was like a lot of uh, friends of mine who were like traveling, living, bachelor lives, partying and things like that, I was like, I have to have kids to feed now. And I had like, to really kind of put on a focus and a drive. And that change was hard at the beginning. The thought of it was scary as heck, but there are no regrets, because it catapulted me and started me off in a foundation that you wouldn't get elsewhere,
Wow.
if that makes sense. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the first thing that
No,
came into my mind. Not that I'm telling you all to go off and have kids right now or anything like that, but
you heard it here
for
first,
me,
though. Have kids as early as possible. It's good for you. I'm
it,
kidding.
it, it kind of is.
I can't imagine. I mean, obviously I'm a father, but having it that phase of life is definitely a different type of challenge. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm curious, fast forwarding to now, and all the work you do and all the transformation and changes that you've had to face and overcome in leading and in business. Does anything stand out for, of course, we're always trying to combine love as a change strategy. And
Hmm.
obviously, I have my own definition of it, but I'm curious what role you feel like personally that love or care or humans as a centric topic have been in your stories of change, kind of in the workplace, kind
Yeah.
of in your experience.
Yeah, it's this is such a, I love this topic. It's such a wild thing. It's like love in the world is just a very interesting thing, right? Because it's one of the things that in life could kind of draw us to something, someone, and also against something and someone, right? Love is such a powerful thing. Um, I always kind of thought about it in terms of like, we like to we read things for two reasons mainly, right? One, because we have to, and second, because we want to, right? And one side, like you have to read this, I don't know, SOP or manual or something like that. I have to read it in order to do this thing. And then there's like a good book or a fiction that you just really enjoy and you want to do that. And that's where like love comes into work, because without love or some kind of emotion into the work, it's it's like reading a manual. It's just it does feel like work,
Mm.
but bringing a sense of emotion or yourself into the work is what creates things like culture and relationships and trust and things like that. And you I don't think you can have like a successful like business without those key elements, because it is still people that are running the organization in many different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And make
absolutely.
sure I want to make sure I'm answering the question too. Is like I think like yeah, without love, it's hard to have a culture or belonging or a want to do things, right? Like, and that's what kind of starts separating us as humans and robots.
Agreed. And I think this very idea of change, which I know we're all going through, but it's by nature something we just never get used to, right? It's just something that is uncomfortable every single time.
Hmm.
Do you have any, I'll leave it open to you. Like, do you have any
Hmm.
advice or even a story or anecdote in your experience of all the change that you've faced, of like how you frame that in your mind, how you approach that fear and that this discomfort of change?
Yeah, it is very interesting, and I think I've recently started getting into Ayurveda. Not as and Ayurveda is like ancient Indian science of life. It's not necessarily religious or spiritual or anything like that, but there are some spiritual elements in it. But it's where yoga, meditation, fasting, all these things that we know today, it comes from Ayurveda.
Mm.
And what I learned about myself in that is in Ayurveda, there are these things called dosha types, and they're like kind of personality types. One of them is called Vata, and that's what I am. And that is the wind type. There's basically wind, fire, earth. Um, and the Vata type, this wind type, is all about change. They kind of they love change. They embrace change. Like they actually need change, stuff like that. Meanwhile, there we have like an earth type that is more solid and doesn't embrace change as much because they enjoy, or they kind of like need this stability,
Mm.
right? So first of all, like change and the ability to change is different for different people. And I think that's the one thing to like really understand, because I would frustrate somebody who is more of that like that earth type, right? Because I'll be like, oh, let's go here, let's go there, let's do all these different things. They're like, I just want to like sit here and just do this one thing type of thing. And I think that's one thing that I've like keep in my mind, is that people are different, and we have to kind of like adjust in a way and for each other. Like I can't I'll just we'll both get frustrated if myself and the the earth type are like just trying to get each other's way. Like I just want to stay here and I just want to go around. We have to reach some kind of compromise or understanding of our ability to change.
Yeah.
The other thing about change, sorry, did I cut you off, or did that make sense first of all?
No, I was just agreeing. Good
Yeah,
point.
I could ramble, so feel free to stop me at any given point and be like, listen, let's talk about this. But you know, change is also something that is time bound in a way. Like we all have to go through certain motions when we go through a change, right? Like we kind of go through, oh crap, like a change is happening. Why is this happening? And kind of the groans to kind of get, okay, like, all right, this is happening. What can we do to like, hey, you know what? We've kind of passed through this. I got this. We could go through this change. And when you kind of hear about a news to when you get to that end state, that timeline is different for different people. And when you first hear about that change, that timeline could be different for different people. Whereas, like, I might hear about it first, and you might hear about it second. So I'm already kind of further along that like psychological journey.
Mm.
Meanwhile, you're not as far along, and then I have to basically be able to understand that, you know what, I've had more time with this to like let it sit with me than say Jeff has. So let me give him some time. So there's a whole lot about change that is like, and how do you understand the change within yourself, understand the change within people around you, and then find that like right middle ground or right way to approach it together.
Yeah. And someone once told me that like there's no significant change that doesn't come with an element of grief or loss.
Exactly.
And I thought that was so profound because, sometimes you think of change, especially as leadership, we think of change as just a tactical thing. Sometimes it's just the right business decision, it's just a tactical shift. And we don't always have the foresight or the insight into thinking about what type of loss we're creating for others. Even a simple
Hmm.
change can have someone who's been doing something one way for a very long time,
Yeah.
having to change and having to do something differently might create, loss for them, like the loss of their comfort, loss of their,
Hmm.
preferences, loss of their safety, the security. And that's I think oftentimes that's one of the barriers to change we see. Like we see change fail and we wonder if we made the wrong choice. But sometimes I think we just weren't paying enough attention to the people that have to go
Yeah.
through that change.
Yeah.
Have you had any experience like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Like like first of all, like I think what you're saying is spot on. It's like we're all pattern recognizers and pattern followers. We like patterns, like and whatnot. But then we also like change in patterns. So we have this like love-hate relationship towards change, because it's like a song. We love hear song over and over again. But then at some point it gets played out, and we're like, we want another song. But I think it's easy for like leadership to overwhelm people, because I feel like, one, like leadership don't know, like from a real experiential standpoint, what the true thing originally was. They see it from their perspective, but it's not what the person's perspective is, who's actually in that mode. And so, yeah, they could misinterpret how long it takes to do it currently, misinterpret like certain things about how it's done currently. So first of all, they have to like make sure when communicating change, they're accurately communicating why this change will be like better, and at least listen to the other person's of people as well, to be like, does this make sense? Are you seeing something that I don't see? Bring them into the change decision making process. The other thing I've seen where it could fail is when there's too much change all at once, because then it just kind of turns into, you never get to a place where you get to kind of stabilize again, right? Because I
Mm.
think change is a bit of destabilization and then restabilization. But if it's change after change after change, you're just kind of like continuously like destabilizing.
How do you know like that limit? Like, or at least how do you how do you know how,
Yeah,
because sometimes changes happen, like we don't have a choice. Like change just
yeah,
happens to us. But then
hmm,
it feels like in order to adapt to the change, we have to change.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
it's like,
And I think about it like in throttles, and like where I defer change sometimes. Like, hey, here's something that we have to do, and we started down this path. Oh, X thing just happened, but some external factor that we can't control, and that's just gonna, without a doubt, change the dynamic. We're like, hey, we were working on this. We're gonna pause on this because, you know what, we can't deal with so much change at once. So I do that often. Kind of think of like, what are all the things going on, and what can I pause and accelerate, or what could I hit the brakes on? What could I accelerate on, and stuff like that.
mm, I know
How have you?
you, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, have you experienced it? And like, what have you kind of like recommended to like clients, or in? I'm curious to know what stories have come up in like your workshops as well related to these things.
Well, I mean, we just published the book on it, so it's nothing but stories of change. But I mean, I like to talk about, sometimes like the book tackles a lot of change at scale, these large, huge org structure changes, just
Mm,
big foundational changes to business, which I think a lot of people struggle with because of that very thing. Is like we're always seeking simple um fixes and solutions. And something like an org structure change, there's not it's not
yeah,
one or even two or even five things to just do and you have it nailed
yeah,
down. It's complicated. It involves
yeah,
feelings and emotions and people. And I think the
yeah,
the book really talks about how to put that people focus first in the planning, in the strategy, in the communication. But I also really love talking about change at the smaller scale. Like right now, this episode itself is a change. And it's about experimenting. It's about trying and being uncomfortable. And it's about having conversation. Like Pinaki, when you and I first chatted, it was to come on love as a business strategy. Before I hit record, I'm like, hey, can we talk about change? And you're like, let's do it. And so we're in the process right now, and it is uncomfortable, right? It is a little
Mhm,
scary and makes things harder, but at the same time, I love to really process and think through and recognize the growth that always comes out of it. Like
mhm,
for at a small scale, you and I
yeah,
here, we're having a good time. We're
yeah,
learning from each other.
yeah,
But also the large scale stuff. I mean, so yeah, stories abound, and we're in the middle of it even right now.
yeah, exactly. And it's funny, right? Like how we were talking about, like it's all relative, right? Like, I mean, uh, yeah, this change in the podcast, and I think it's important to like just to embrace change. Again, this is me. I'm sorry, I just hit the mic. Uh, I think it's important to just embrace change, right? This is me being that wind type. I enjoy change. I get bored with doing the same thing over and over again, trying to find different ways. I always say when I see everyone is like zigging, I'll zag, because I'm like, why go in that same direction for everybody? So I think, even for folks who are not finding themselves like open to change, like practice it little by little, change maybe a little something, or right, kind of, because you know it changes your perspective, and that gives you different ideas on things and stuff like that. And I think that's really, really important. Like every now and then, we're so not used to going outside and just like looking up and looking at the sky or looking at the expanse, but maybe take a moment to do that and see
Mm.
how that change affects you. So in like little pockets of change.
I mean, I know you haven't read the book because it just came out, but that's spot on to like what we talk. I mean, we have an entire principle around experimentation, right?
Hmm.
And kind of embracing something different in that very way, which is this idea that we have to experience something different to start believing something different. And
Yep.
it's when we believe something different is when we can really change and do something different. And so it's one of those ideas that like we're all afraid of change because of kind of the belief that we've built up about what that change might mean. But I love what you just said about like just go outside and look up. If you don't
Hmm.
normally do that, just that experiment and just that experience might be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this is
Yeah.
like I might, and worst case, it changes nothing, but you tried, like that's
Yeah.
kind of the idea. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love that perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Worst case, you got a little bit more vitamin D, maybe. I don't know, or salt and stars, hopefully. But yeah, that's the concept. I think like growth doesn't come in sameness, right? If you're doing the same thing, like there's not growth. Growth doesn't come in your comfort zone, right?
Hmm.
Growth comes when you extend beyond that, whether like mental growth or even physical muscle growth, right? Comes from damaging and like hurting yourself in order to regrow certain things. And same thing with
Absolutely.
change. So it could be good practice to learn how to endure change.
Yeah. Uh, Beautifully put. I love that we decided to talk about change today. And without reading the book, you're just basically quoting lines right out of it. So here we are. Just
Brilliant minds. It's like, love is a business strategy, and why does it feel so wrong to be human at work? There was so many, when we first talked, there was so many like synergies that I'm like, this is like uncanny. It's like alternate or parallel universe of the same thing. So
yeah.
really cool.
Uh, As we run out of time here, tell me about why does it feel so wrong to be human at work? Like title says a lot, but fill
Mhm.
in the blanks. What is that about? And what's
Yeah.
the answer? What's the answer to the question? Just give me the answer. Why?
Right. Uh, like the quick story, which started it, was basically at our company, we local wisdom, we have like monthly meetings, and as part of those monthly meetings, we have this time where we call kudos, where we're a small company, like uh, 40 people, but anyone is open to like get up and thank someone else or other people for something they did in that last month. And it's a lot of fun, and it could take a lot of time. Like it goes 20-25 minutes, but I noticed that when they get to this 20-minute mark, people are now feeling rushed, like, oh my god, I'm sorry, I have a few more. And I've actually repeatedly said that, hey, it's okay if you spend this whole time just thanking each other, that's a win in my book,
Mm.
right? But then I found myself apologizing one time too. So and it just hit me like, why does it feel so wrong to just sit at work and thank each other for an hour? And then that just started opening up a whole bunch of things. Like, why does it feel so wrong to take the afternoon off? Why does it feel so wrong to say no to your boss and things like that? And I was talking about this with Chris Lee, uh, who is uh, VP of Communications at Gallagher, and he was like, let's do a podcast out of this, because similar to like you and I, we just had great conversations, and we started it off. It was a seasonal thing, so just like that concept, every episode is a why does it feel so wrong to something, like be an a-hole at work is in season 2, or feel like you belong and things like that. And we just think that throughout work, like throughout the existence of the concept of paid work, we've just been conditioned to believe and do a lot of things that we haven't taken a step back and said, hey, why are we doing this? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just take a step back and look, why is it this way? And each topic, we're looking at it from all sides of the equation. So it's not like a one-sided bashing type of thing. And each episode, I'm trying to get into the research and the history behind the constructs behind it. So it's some fun satire, it's some research and some history behind it, and it's good conversation to make you kind of sit back and just think, why is this, and can I change it up a little bit?
I love it. I love it. Obviously, I smell a crossover episode.
Yeah, I
And
think so. There's so much synergy.
yeah, and it's a great question, like to just constantly be asking, because
Yeah,
our mission here is to bring humanity, at least from on my end, is to bring humanity back to the workplace, and it really at the center of that is that question. Is like, why is it so
absolutely.
hard to be human at work?
Yeah,
We're like saying the same thing in just different ways, and it's lovely. I just
it is.
can't get over
It,
it. I can't get over
it,
it.
it's really funny. Like, while recording, like well, in the seasons, I had like the seasons lists in front of me, and quite literally just having those questions, because every episode is like, why does it feel so wrong to ask for help, for example. So there's like basically now there's 20 episodes right now. We just finished season 2, and just by keeping those questions in front of me, I feel has made me a better leader, because I'm
Mm,
thinking about it like, why does it feel so wrong to use jargon at work? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm using jargon. Let me stop, things like that.
I love that. Ah, man. All right. Well, Pinaki, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you,
time.
Jeff.
And obviously, I will need to go check out more, and the audience should check out Why Does It Feel So Wrong to Be Human at Work. But
Thank you.
also, any other plug, any other way people can reach you, learn more from you, hear from you.
Yeah, I'm similar, like love teaching, love sharing my wisdom from the things that I do. Uh, you know, find me on LinkedIn, Pinaki Kathiari. There's not many of me out there. Connect with me. Love to chat. Love to help. And yeah, for any of you who are like thinking about change or seeing a change coming and feeling that like swell up and anxiety approach you, just be kind to yourself. That is a normal part of change, and be okay with it. And even try to understand where that's coming from. That'll help you get through the other change.
Awesome. Thank you so much to my guest and to the audience. Things are changing. Glad you're here
Things-
for it. Uh, if you're enjoying this, please tell a friend, rate the episode, all that good stuff. But also, new book is out. Love is a Change Strategy. Find it everywhere. If you haven't seen the first one, Love is a Business Strategy is a bestseller, still out there, still proud of it. Thank you for your support. Thank you for checking it out. And we will see you all in a few weeks. Thank you so much, and
Thank
have
you,
a good one.
Jeff. Thank you, everybody.
Love is a strategy.